me share my screen. So welcome. Over the next half hour, I am going to share with you how the top 1% of SAT students use these 3 little known strategies to slay their test, and why spending thousands of dollars on tutoring or hours and hours of practice will not always work. So I am available for questions. So I'm going to go through the presentation, and then if you want to hang around, I'll answer whatever questions you have. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Before we dive into the SAT strategies that I want to share with you today, I want to address something really big that's going on right now. And I'm not sure if you've heard that a lot of colleges are going what they're calling test optional. Okay, so I want to explain what test optional is and what test blind is. So I don't know if you've heard those two phrases. Test optional is definitely all over the place right now. What the difference is test blind colleges will not look at an ACT or SAT score in the admission process at all. Even if you send them the scores, they will not look at them. Okay. Test optional, which is what more colleges are actually going to, is that they're saying it's not required, but if you send them the scores, they're still going to look at them. Okay. And for a lot of schools, those ACT and SAT scores are still needed for merit scholarships. Okay. So I've had quite a few students say that they're not going to take the ACT or SAT because of the test optional, which is totally fine. But if it could be a very easy way to distinguish yourself at colleges that are test optional, because if that means not everyone is sending their scores and your son or daughter scores really well, that it could be a very easy way to help your son or daughter stand out. Okay. The other thing is that you have to make sure that the colleges that you're looking at are not going to use those ACT or SAT scores for merit scholarships, right? I'd hate to not have someone not take the test and then miss out on some scholarship money. Okay, so I just wanted to address those two things, right? Or the test optional versus test blind right off the bat. And at the end, I can also go through, I got a question about ACT versus SAT and the difference between those. So I'll go through that after this. So what I wanted to say was that your son or daughter's SAT score can still help with admissions and scholarships. Okay. So preparing for the SAT and like doing some type of prep fills 2 needs. You review content from school, which I know some students might have, with what the last quarter of school was like this past year, might be feeling like they are a little off or like haven't really been really challenged in a while. So preparing for the SAT fills 2 needs with 1 deed. You review content and you're preparing for the test. Okay, so along with the current state of things, we don't really know what's going on for fall of 2020. And I know there's a lot of speculation what's going to happen. My own kid's school district is going to be announcing next week what's happening. And we don't know what's going on with college admissions for the class of 2021. That's where they're saying a lot of things are test optional or test blind. So we don't have a lot of control over stuff that's happening this fall, but one thing that we can control is helping our own kids prepare and feel confident when they're walking in to take the test if you're choosing for your children to take them. So here's a testimonial from someone that's worked with me. Last year, my son went from an 1100 to a 1380, so up 280 points. Tina gave him the confidence and strategies that resulted in large scholarships and opened up his opportunities. Tina's program is amazing. Okay, so my goal here today is to give you those 3 strategies, but also show you that preparing for a test, and that's what those top 1% of scorers do is they prepare for the test. Preparing for the test is more than just doing practice problems. So are you stressed out, mom or dad of a junior or senior? Are you feeling your child might be a little behind in school based off of what the last quarter was? Are you looking for a guide and someone to help you on this path to college? And where you might have already been overwhelmed about test scores before COVID even happened, and now it's even a little bit more daunting. So what can we do? I can understand your frustrations for more than one reason. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Tina Wiles. I am a mother of 4 boys. My oldest is a senior in high school, and he actually did not get a testing opportunity all of junior year due to some medical things and some other things that took place. So even though I've been doing ACT and SAT prep now for 14 years, this is the first time I have a child going through the process, and I'm going through it from a parent's point of view. And it's so frustrating. Like, I totally get it. And tests that were canceled, and all that craziness. So I do have 4 sons. Like I said, the oldest is a sophomore or a senior, and then I have a sophomore, an 8th grader, and a 5th grader. And I did attend the University of Michigan. My degree is actually in industrial engineering, and I did work for Motorola for 9 years, manufacturing cell phones and working in supply chain. I then left to start raising my family, but I was going crazy being a stay-at-home mom. And so I started tutoring for ACT and SAT. I then decided to take the next step. It took a slight detour on my path and went back to Benedictine University in the Chicagoland area and got certified to be a high school math teacher. I worked inner city Chicago for 2 years before it completely burnt me out. Loved working with the students, but it completely burnt me out, especially with already having 4 kids. And then that's when I founded my tutor. So I started my tutor just doing private tutoring because that was what I was super comfortable with. I'm just going to bring you on a little journey and how I ended up where I'm at right now. So doing private tutoring, I had a very long wait list of people that wanted to work with me. And I read the book, You're a Badass by Jen Sincero. And it immediately thought of the idea of how I could start to actually take my tutoring hobby as a business and turn it into something more. So I started doing small groups, and I do live in the Chicagoland area, and I do small groups at my office. And my next aha was I could take the format of my small groups and move them online so that I get to help even more people. And I've helped people from coast to coast, California to New York, and I've even helped people in Dubai and Singapore for international students. Okay, so here's another testimonial. Hey, this was a student that went through my online program. Hey, Tina, guess what? I went from a 1210 to a 1320. I'm so excited. Thank you so much for your help. All right, so now I want to show you what those 3 keys that I talked about earlier are. So the 3 vital elements that those top 1% of scorers do. And they are, element 1 is like you need to review stuff that you know from school. Element 2 is why you don't need to know every single grammar rule or memorize every math formula you've learned in school. And element 3 is all about your outlook and how you're thinking about the test. Okay, so more details on element 1. It is content. And the content on the test, especially in the math, but also in they call it writing, but it's really the grammar section. It is so important to make sure that your child is reviewing the content. Okay, and there are a lot of free ways to do this. Khan Academy is one of the ways that they can review some content. But especially with the crazy last quarter we had at the end of the 2019-2020 school year, And I guess who knows what's coming up this fall, but we want to make sure that our kids don't fall behind. And the content that is on the test is a really good review of what they've had in high school so far. So reviewing and practicing is because like summer slide is a real thing, and it's even more of a concern this year. I actually had a student earlier today that she picked up a pencil. It's the first time I've seen her in a while. And she said, I haven't picked up a pencil since March, because even for remote learning, she was just doing things on the computer. So that's the kind of stuff that, that you need to practice a little bit. This is an example of an Algebra 2 math problem that will appear on the SAT. By preparing for the SAT, those students that are getting like the super top 1% of scores are making sure that they know this type of content. So fortunately, this type of question doesn't appear very often on the test, because this actually is a very difficult math problem. For those of you that are mathy people, you actually need to complete the square to solve this. It's about the equation of a circle. Another example of some of the content that you'd see on the test is, I am always amazed at the number of students that have told me that they have never learned how to use a semicolon. I can guarantee that they probably have had several different teachers from the time they were in elementary school on tell them how to use a semicolon, but for some reason it just doesn't stick. Okay, so as soon as I say a semicolon is literally the exact same thing as a period, they're always like, that's it? Yeah, that's it. But reviewing when to use that and why you can use it will make a difference on their test scores. So like I said, top scorers review the content that appears on the test. The next thing that top scorers do is they use strategies. So some students are just born knowing how to test, okay? Others, or the majority of students, need to actually learn how to take a test. And this is something that is not really taught anywhere, okay? So sitting down and going through how to take a test, how to use your answer choices, how to eliminate, can make a big difference in scores. So it's really about working smarter. So like I mentioned, knowing every grammar rule, every comma rule, or memorizing every math formula for like completing the square, the distance formula. Like there's so many formulas that they don't need to know all that in order to be able to get questions right on the test. This is an example of a question that appears on the SAT, and using a strategy can help give a starting point. So for example, one of the strategies for the writing section that I teach is called petite, and it means keeping it short and simple. And so in this particular problem, it says, situated among larger Las Vegas hotels, the La Concha needed to stand out. And when you look at the answer choices, you have out been like really long, and out and his neighbors, larger Las Vegas hotels, out and be different. Okay, all of it saying the same thing. The answer is just out. So keeping it short and simple, where a lot of students think this is the SAT, and so I need to make it really complicated. No, that's the opposite's true on the writing. So the strategies, one way to help remember strategies is mnemonics. And so I created the mnemonics for strategies that all start with the letter P. So like I already said, the writing strategy is petite. The math strategy is plug, which is using your answer choices. And the reading strategy is predict, which is that you try to guess the answer. So those top 1% of scorers are reviewing the content, but they're also using strategies that sometimes they just know innately, and other times they've actually learned. But having the plan and using the strategies is way more reliable than trying to memorize everything that could possibly appear on the test. Okay, the third element that those top scorers use is mindset. Okay, and top scorers have a grasp of this. They know that mindset is important. And when I teach, I actually teach some mindset stuff. And I think that this is one thing that actually distinguishes me from other people that help prep for the test is I know how important mindset is. Okay. So I'm going to use the example of athletes when it comes to mindset. And I have a picture of Michael Phelps up here. And a quote from Yogi Berra. So Yogi Berra, the game is 90% mental and the other half is physical. Okay. Mental and being mentally ready for something is so important. So Michael Phelps is a huge proponent of visualization. So there's one, I don't know if you've ever seen him getting ready before a race. What he's doing is visualizing what's going to happen. And then there was a story that I saw where he's visualized everything that could possibly go wrong while he's in a race, so that when it happens during a race, he doesn't have to decide what he's doing. He's already visualized what's going to happen. So for example, there was a race where his goggles came off when he dove in, and he literally did not miss a beat because he had already thought through what was going to happen if his goggles came off. So being mentally prepared for sitting there and focusing for 3.5 hours is really important. One thing that I teach regarding mindset is called the starfish meditation. And I talk about mindfulness and some stuff that they can practice leading up to the test or actually do during the test. The way starfish meditation works is you actually hold your hand out and you trace the outside of your hand and you focus on the like tickle feeling. And you can actually incorporate breathing with it too, where you'd inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. And if you're doing that and focusing on the tickle feeling, a lot of the anxiety that you'd be feeling, especially during the test, can magically disappear. And what I have found from 14 years of working with my students is that confidence and having the mindset of confidence when they walk in to take the test is the game changer. Okay. Scoring perfect on a practice test is totally different than sitting in the test environment with the nervous anxiety, the nervous energy in the room and getting that 1600 on the actual exam. So hours and hours and hours of practice will not do anything if when your son or daughter goes into the the actual test, they don't believe that they're going to score better. Okay. So having them set that mindset before they walk into the test is a game changer. So obviously there's a lot more to this. The three things are so important: the content, the strategies, and the mindset. But I am going to share with you now a program that I have that if this is something that you feel your son or daughter does not have, the content, the strategies, or the mindset, that I can help with. So I have a program called Slay the SAT. And Slay the SAT is designed to help your child's confidence and test scores increase while helping their anxiety and maybe the extra downtime they have during the summer decrease. So Slay the SAT is really focused around 3 things. So structure, we'll meet twice a week. Accountability, I'm checking in and making sure homework is being done. And learning, because we're going to be talking about that content, strategy, and mindset that they need. So unlike other programs that have a general teacher, and maybe I've seen business teachers do this, in a book that they work out of, how Slay the SAT is designed as an easy, engaging, and focused program created and taught by a perfect scorer. That would be me. I score perfect on the test. I'm a test expert. I've been doing this for 14 years and a mother of 4 sons. So I know how to talk to those teens. So how it's set up is we have live 60-minute lessons once a week, leading up to the August test date. All of the lessons are taught by me. Questions are welcome. And this is where we go through the content and the strategies. The lessons are recorded so that if they have to miss a lesson or they wanted to go back and review something we talked about during a lesson, that they have access to that. Here's another message from a student. I tried using the strategies for things I didn't know. Plugging back in really works. It really felt like what I am doing with the things I did not know, but now it seems so simple. Okay, so that's worded a little weird, but I think you're getting the idea is that he tried applying the strategy right away and he couldn't believe how simple and easy it was. The second time we meet each week are going to be office hours. So this is where we're actually going to review the homework that they've had for the week. There will be homework given every week. And so I'll go through any questions they have about homework. And why this is so important is reviewing why they're getting questions wrong is actually what's going to improve their score. It's good to get questions wrong when you're practicing because then you can learn something from it versus just, I got the question right because I was a lucky guesser, right? We need to make sure they understand what's going on. These are also recorded. So if your child cannot make it, they can send me a question and I'll answer during the office hours and they'll have access to the recordings for that. A message from a student. I feel more confident about my SATs. It is very helpful to go about practice thinking of why I'm getting questions wrong rather than which answer is right. It also helps to have in-depth explanations of questions I had trouble with. All right, so where I keep all the information for the students is in a Google Classroom, okay? And then we'll have a lifetime access to this Google Classroom. And so what that means is that we will go through, they're gonna be with the same group of people preparing for the August SAT test date. And I have a different cohort for every test date. So the August group will be getting together and then they could, if they decide to take the test at a later date, they can come back and look at those videos at any time. And I'm always available for questions. This is from a parent. Hi, Tina. I just wanted to drop you a note to thank you for working with Leanne. She loves the class and feels like she's learning so much. So love to get messages from parents. So what also comes with the program is workbook and practice tests. So the book that I recommend using for practice is the actual College Board book. It has 8 practice tests in. We don't go through all 8 practice tests in the 6 weeks, but we'll use that book. And then I have a workbook that will take notes in during lessons and do practice, and then they'll do all their homework out of the big book. So the books are included with the course. Here's another message from a parent. I am sending many people your way and I hope it's okay and not overwhelming. I do let them know that you fill up quickly because you are awesome. I also let them know I can't guarantee their children will experience the same results, but Alexis's score increase is proof enough to me that your style and approach works. And this particular mom, her daughter ended up going to school on a full ride scholarship. So that's exciting. Another part of the program that I feel is key is that we do a full practice test. So there's a proctored practice test 3 weeks into the program, and it's to see if the strategies that we're going through and that they can apply them right away and they're seeing improvement, but there's still enough time that I can jump in if we're not seeing the improvement that we want. So one of the hardest things about the test is being able to sit for 3.5 hours and focus. So it's important that we practice that, and then we go through and analyze the questions that they got wrong. From another student, I took the college prep class in school and it gave me good strategies, but this is really boosting my confidence. After I come back from nationals next week, I will come in for office hours. So this was a swimmer that went on to nationals. I think he's actually currently swimming at Michigan State. All right, and then there's going to be a video library of answers and explanations. So I am available for any answers, questions that they have. And in the book, there's written answers and explanations, but sometimes those written answers and explanations just feels like the College Board should have just written because we said so. Like the explanation really doesn't make sense. So not only do they have me available for help, but they can go and look at videos on their own to see if they can get some explanations. This is, I sent to a student before his SAT. I said, good luck tomorrow. And he said, thanks. I'm actually kind of looking forward to it. Can you imagine your child saying they're actually looking forward to taking the SAT? This kid did. The student, his score went up over 200 points, and he's actually going to Western Michigan this year on a scholarship. So slay the SAT. I just went through everything that you get in the program. The total value of all this information is $1,550. So if all this program did was review all the content that your son or daughter needed for all the subjects, would this payment of $1,550 be worth it? If all this did was help your son or daughter get into their dream college, would the $1,550 be worth it? And if all this did was get your son or daughter a merit scholarship totaling $40,000, would a one-time payment of $1,550 be worth it? What's it worth? Like, think about it for a second. How much would a live online test prep course that provides the structure, accountability, and learning necessary for your son or daughter to increase their SAT scores be worth to you? Well, I am offering Slay the SAT for $397 as a one-time payment. And I also have a payment plan of 6 payments of $70 each. So and like I mentioned, I have the cohort set up to prepare for each individual test. So the group that's going to be starting on July 19th, so that's a week from Sunday, is going to be preparing for the August 29th, 28th, it's the end of August, SAT. So this price is until class starts on July 19th, and then I'm not taking any more students until the next onboarding, which will be for the September and October SATs. So in addition to everything I just went through, there will be text and email support. So they'll have my text and email, usually text, most kids don't email, that I'll be in their on-call tutor. So any questions that they have, they can get me pretty much immediately. And then the other thing that I will be sending with the books is my brand new published How to Slay the SAT book that's currently available on Amazon. It goes along with the SAT practice test with the eight tests. It goes along with that book, but it's even more information and guidance for your student on how to approach the test. So like I mentioned, Slay the SAT, today's price is $397 or 6 payments of $70. But I have a guarantee. So I want you to make decision off of information that you have versus information that you don't. Like, I want to actually help your son or daughter. So how the guarantee works is you go ahead and buy the program. Your students go through the first 2 weeks of the program. They participate in the phone calls, they do the homework, and if after they've had all of the strategies, they don't feel that they're seeing improvement and that they don't like the way I'm teaching, I will give you your money back. So why the program is worth it is for the next 6 weeks, you could take what you might spend going out to dinner, so like the $70 a week, and invest in your son or daughter's future. So if you're interested in the program, you can go to slaythesat.com. That's slaythesat.com. And there's some more information there, and that's where you register. So I told you I'm available for Q&A. So is there anyone that has any questions? If you do, there's a button, there should be a button on the Zoom webinar that you can raise your hand and ask questions. or you could put it in the chat if you have any questions. Oh, I did mention I was going to explain the difference between the ACT and the SAT. So the difference between the ACT and the SAT is that the SAT is more, I think of it as more of a thinking test. So the vocabulary is more intense. The math problems might be 3 or 4 steps to solve, but you get considerably more time per problem on the test. The ACT is a more direct test. Like the questions don't feel as tricky or like you need to read between the lines, but the disadvantage is that the time is much tighter. So if time is something that your son or daughter typically struggles with during finals or during tests in school, the SAT would probably be a better fit just because there's more time per problem. If they are more of a math or science person, the ACT might be a better fit because the verbal stuff is a little bit more straightforward on the ACT than it is on the SAT. So does anyone have any questions? All right, well, I am available for questions. You can shoot me an email. I think you all have my emails. And thank you so much for joining me for the webinar. Again, you can go to slaythesat.com, slaythesat.com, where the program Slay the SAT is available for $397 in one payment or 6 payments of $70. slaythesat.com. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful evening.